Hey, KU fans, welcome back to Allen Fieldhouse. I'm Matt Tate, that's Benton Smith, and KU looked a lot more tonight like a lot of the other teams we've seen play in Allen Fieldhouse over the years. They absolutely steamrolled Iowa State 97-64. It was a season high for points, season high for points and a half, season high for field goals made, season high for field goals attempted. The list goes on and on and on. But Benton, what I'm curious about, I don't think you really care about field goals attempted. What stood out to you about this game?
Well, just the fact that they looked so comfortable and, like you said, looked so different than they had in the past month and a half or however long it's been since they started struggling. Most of January and on into February, but I thought they looked significantly better tonight, and I thought it was kind of. You look at it two different ways. I mean, you're playing an Iowa State team that's not very good and has definitely struggled, winless in Big 12 play, all of that. But I also thought, the return of Bryce Thompson was huge for this team, much bigger than I figured it would be. I didn't expect him to look so comfortable coming back off of that broken finger. But, I mean, he was one of the many guys who really played well tonight. And obviously the big three was on the wing really stood out with, I think that's what you wrote your game story about, right? Jalen Wilson, Christian Brown, and Ochai. I really liked how Ochai just kept shooting. Like he has the best approach to that because, I mean, they weren't falling in the first half, but he also did not care at all. He just kept shooting because he's a good shooter, and they started dropping, and KU ran away with it.
Yeah, I think it's, you mentioned those three guys, and that is what I wrote about and self-talked a lot about them afterwards. They were fantastic, and David McCormick had a double-digit night as well. But I think that's what tells you about this team and about their night tonight, that a guy like Bryce Thompson, who played 19 minutes, 8 points, didn't do anything like outrageously, ridiculously good compared to those guys, but he still stood out just as much as they did. And maybe it was because he was back, first game back. But I got the feeling, and you're absolutely right, that this was Iowa State, and you got to take it with a grain of salt. But I got the feeling that just having their team whole again gave these guys some confidence. And look, Bryce Thompson's only played 10 college games in his life before tonight, and he looked kind of skittish in some of those games. He never really looked poised or anything at all like what he looked tonight. So it's not necessarily like, oh, my God, we got our, Andrew Wiggins back, or we got our Josh Jackson back. I mean, Bryce is going to be a great player, and he is really a talented dude, but it wasn't like you knew that addition was going to make such a difference. But I think these guys, it just felt like a team that looked like they believe in themselves again. And obviously they played like that tonight. So we'll see if that continues. They get another crack at Iowa State on Saturday. That's obviously a really good news thing for Kansas. And stranger things have happened for sure if they continue to build. What you outside of the outside of Ochai, I mean, they outscored this team 50-24 in the paint, and it wasn't by just dumping it down to Dave. It was attack off the dribble, attack in transition, go, and get layups. And I thought that was probably the most impressive part about that trio. They shot the heck out of it, and they looked great shooting it from three-point range. But they were just relentless going to the rim, and Jalen Wilson was, Christian Brown was, Ochai was. And, here we are a few minutes into this thing, and we haven't even talked about Marcus Garrett. and Self mentioned after the game that Garrett had a 4-minute stretch where he dominated without scoring. So just a really much-needed, perfect all-around type of night. But I thought those guys going to the rim, putting it on the floor, and attacking, that's the mindset that these guys need, I think, the rest of the way. And I think they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, there was no reason to be tentative tonight, just given, the lineup they were facing with Iowa State. And I thought, Brown had some of the more aggressive takes he's had all season and, was doing a great job of finishing. And then, I feel like we finally got to that game we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks where Jalen Wilson, finally got those shots to fall for him. And, but it also was like, his third double-double in a row or something like that. I mean, he's had the right approach, but now the shots are falling. And then, it seems like it's been almost all year where, you just have one of those three guys with Wilson, Agbaji, and Brown. Maybe just one of them will have a good night, and the other two will be off. Or two of them will be okay and one will be really off. But all three of them, when they're killing it like they were tonight, I mean, this team is obviously way different.
Yeah, way different, way better. I don't know that they're a top 5 team in the country even with that, but does it give you the feeling that, hey, if they play like that, and obviously they have to do it against better teams and prove they can do it against better teams, but boy, when they are all clicking like that, I feel like there aren't many teams they can't play with. I mean, do you have that same feeling? It just seems like if they can put that out there, they're going to have confidence to go up against almost anybody.
Yeah, because I mean, they obviously were playing very well in December, right? And
Right.
I mean, that's when this team had peaked, and then they just kind of fell off a cliff when they came back in January. And now you're starting to see more of that. You're having that December feel, and they beat Creighton, who has consistently played well this year and has remained one of the top 15 teams in the country or thereabouts. And I mean, that's KU will not beat Gonzaga, will not beat Baylor, I don't think. Why couldn't they beat anybody else when they actually have everybody clicking now? That's obviously easier said than done. But
Sure.
I think they showed that they do have that potential.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, definitely. What did you like most about Bryce? I mean, was there a thing he brought to the floor? Was there a moment? I mean, I already kind of talked about, and we both did, that he just looked so poised, like nothing we'd seen from him before. And then he takes a month off and he comes out and he says, okay, well, I'm just going to be chill. I mean, it made no sense, but it was cool to see because he was a much better player as a result. But what stood out about his game tonight?
Well, to me, just kind of the things you mentioned, like how crazy it was that he looked like a completely different player, I mean,
under control.
Yeah. I mean, eager to just, make the right play. And I mean, he took maybe one bad shot that Self let him hear about. And after that, he came right back and, started making smart basketball plays again, got to the paint and, took a floater if that was the play, or, kicked it out to Brown for a three if that was the read. And he's also an underrated defender. I mean, I kind of forgot that he could make such an impact on that in the floor. And not just when he rose up to block that shot, but I mean, just playing smart help defense.
Oh, did he block a shot tonight? I didn't see that.
He might have.
How about that? What'd he say? Yeah, afterwards he said, "I thought I was going to get teed up." I mean, like he even admitted he said something, and I mean, but hey, good for him. It was a monster block from a not monster build. He's not the biggest dude out there, and he absolutely crushed that shot. So, yeah, I thought, you got to remember with Bryce, man, that when he got hurt, he was their sixth man, right? And he was playing a lot of minutes because even while being a little skittish and not quite under control and not quite having his feet and his head under him, even then he was playing those minutes because Self trusts him and he loves how hard he competes. And so if you bring him back and somehow he's a little more controlled now after maybe watching it for a while, and he has confidence now off of this game for sure, and all of a sudden you still love the way he competes and you still trust him, I mean, they may have got a huge piece back tonight. And, he might not be a guy that's going to go for 20 or even be a threat to go for 20, but he helps other guys get 20. He helps this team defend, and that's been a big problem. So I think it is an underrated thing, having him out hurt this team way more than you realized, I realized, most people realized, maybe even more than Self realized. I mean, it's so easy to overlook, and I think his performance tonight shows that it shouldn't be overlooked. He is a potentially huge part of this team. So, hey, what are the chances they do this again on Saturday? I mean, I know it's on the road, and pride goes into it. Iowa State doesn't want to go home and get kicked by 33 again, but I mean, they're pretty bad, and they showed that tonight. I mean, I'm not going to ask you what are the chances they win 97-64, but I mean, do you think they have set themselves up to go up there and win by 20? I mean, something like that. I mean, did you see enough tonight to make you feel like if they don't do that, then maybe that's a bad sign or something like that? Because I mean, that's the bar now, right? They
Right.
like they blew this team out. If they don't go blow them out again, what happened, right?
Yeah. It should be more difficult. It's a rematch. Iowa State has, kind of seen KU up close now, and can kind of figure out where its biggest issues were and kind of adjust. But I mean, I think KU played so well and is, kind of maybe turning a corner finally and could go up there and win by 15. And to me, that's a good win, especially for a team that's lost 5 road games in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it might not be a packed, Hilton Coliseum like it usually is, but it's an Iowa State team playing at home. They'll play with pride, and they're a well-coached team, and they're just not as talented as Iowa State teams have been in the past. But I think if you go and win there by 15, that's a good win. I mean, it's tough to win on the road, regardless of how that team is playing at the time.
Yeah, I like everything you said, and the bigger challenge for Iowa State, I think, because KU played so well tonight, is of course they're going to make adjustments, and they're going to look at the film, and they're going to say, okay, we need to do this. The problem is KU played so well and from so many different places and with so many different people that what do you pick? Like if you're Iowa State, you come out and say, well, we got to shut down Abaji shooting the three-pointer. Well, no. Jalen Wilson had a double-double with 18 minutes to go. Do you focus on him? Do you focus on Brown, who, if he had played a whole game, might have had a triple-double? I mean, it's just I think it's a lot harder when you're looking down that list of things that led to you getting beat by 33, and it's just so long. I mean, you could start somewhere, but I don't know that you can get to the bottom of the list in 40 hours or whatever it is. So it's in a game that would otherwise probably be a pretty boring, and non-hyped up type of game. Let's say they beat this team like this in January when that game got canceled. This return trip would mean nothing. Everybody would expect them to go do exactly what you just said, win by 15, no real excitement around it, that kind of thing. But because it's back-to-back and because so much is at stake for Kansas in terms of continuing to build that momentum that they so desperately need, all of a sudden this game is, in a weird way, it's enormous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is for the reasons Self talked about kind of earlier in the week, where, I mean, it's just like this is the next stage of them, trying to finally right the ship. And if you don't want to take any steps back, especially now that you've made such progress, it seems, in the past couple of victories. So I just think, like, if you can go up there and, make sure it's not a tight or pressure-filled game, you just build up a double-digit lead, hang on to it and come back home with a 14, 15-point win, you've done pretty well. And then you get to move on to these really important games that are coming up after that.
Good stuff. It's going to get really interesting from there, and it gets really interesting Saturday. It'll be a fun game to kind of dissect and see how it goes. I love the back-to-back thing. I'm sure I said that on the last extra we did. I know I said it when we talked to Self earlier in the week. I know I've told you 100 times. I love it. It's so cool. It doesn't happen at this level very often, and so it's really cool to see. So we'll see what happens. But KU wins it tonight 78. No, way more than that. 78 was the Oklahoma State win. 97-64 over Iowa State. They improved to 14-7 overall and 8-5 in Big 12 play. Not the best record ever, but starting to sound a little more normal. So we'll see if they can keep it going on Saturday. For Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tate. Thanks for checking out KU Sports Extra. We'll talk to you guys Saturday.